Meanwhile, Governor Evers is reminding people that it's time to sign up or renew your health insurance. The governor and several other groups held an open enrollment kickoff event this morning. Enrollment through the federalhealthcare.gov kicks off tomorrow and continues through January 15th. Governor Evers says enrollment has grown in recent years, but there's still work to do.
Well, that's worth celebrating. We're still seeing large numbers of people who are uninsured due to limited options, lack of eligibility or knowledge on available coverage, and other obstacles that deter enrollment.
Evers says he's also going to continue fighting to expand Badger Care and to increase the health care workforce.